At the Art of Brilliance, we're here to pitch something differently. Your businesses, the most important thing in your businesses are their people. The most important thing in your family is your people. How often is your family their best selves? When you go home, how often are your best selves at home or at work? Or when you come to things like this, how many people have you met? How many links have you made? All right, and that's about when we are our best selves, amazing things happen. Amazing things happen. So we're going to talk about that today. So I've got three things I want to get you to think about in this short time that we have. This isn't about doing more. It's about being a better human being. Because hopefully there's nobody in this room who thinks they know it all and they can't do anything else. But I'd ask you, when was the last time you did some personal development on yourself? When was the last time you thought, oh, maybe I could learn something new and be a better human being? Maybe. All right, number two, happy people are more successful. All the research coming out of psychology now says that happy people are more successful. And I'll define what happy means. It isn't jazz hands. All right, but it is about being highly self-aware. Highly self-aware. That's what happy means for many, many people. Happy businesses make more money. Happy families stay together. Happy schools get better grades. Right? It's all out there, 20 years of research. I don't know if you've actually looked at it yet, but I'm urging you to go and look at it now. And number three is about legacy. So when you are your best self, you will create an amazing legacy. Because we're only here for a very short amount of time, aren't we? I'm here to educate and inspire, but I'm also here to rattle your cage a bit. The average lifespan in this country is 4,000 weeks. That's all you get. That's all you get. That's the average. Okay, when you tell kids that, young kids, they go, wow, 4,000 weeks, bloody loads. When you say to a 47-year-old, you've got 4,000 weeks, that's not many. That's not many. How many are we going to do? And when you come to the end of your 4,000 weeks, how are you going to look back on it? Are you going to think about the legacy that you've left as your best self? Or are you going to say, oh, I could have been better. I could have been so much better. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So, number one, first thing I want us to do is this. With somebody near you, right? This is about a minute. This should take about a minute. Two girls on the beach. One looks like she's in pain. She's not. She's just very happy, right? She's just really happy. Tell the person next to you, when was the last time you felt like the girl on the left? Off you go. It doesn't matter. I sort of know where they are, don't they? There's a real reason we think about this. Adults find it very difficult to think about this because they're on the grind. They keep chasing. All right. What about if you didn't have to do massive things to feel like that? What about if it was in the everyday moments? With the people that you're with, the things that you see, the things that you hear. And you get more of that. And when you are more like that in your businesses and at home, you thrive more. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science, but you do have to practice this. Because the modern world doesn't necessarily promote this. And all the research coming out, wouldn't you want that for your business? Wouldn't you want that for your kids? Have you got kids who are going to take SATs or exams this summer? Obviously, primary school has already taken theirs. Have you focused on any of this with them? Or do you just go, oh, good luck? All right, I'm being really serious with you. And with your co-work and with your workers when they go into big pitches or they're going for new business. Do you actually coach them on how to manage pressure and stress and how to be more resilient? Or do you just think it's a given that they can just do it? Because it isn't. It isn't. Some can do it, lots can't, okay? So we need a different way of thinking. Because we know, we know, I don't know where that's come up, we know that we're all brilliant. All right, we know we're all brilliant because we were like this. But over time, we start to get layers put on us. You know when you're that age, you're bright, you're buzzing, you've got loads of energy, aren't you? You're giggling, you're laughing, but you're resilient, you're gritty. Say, for example, you're learning to walk at that age and you fall down lots of times, don't you? I don't know if anyone here said, oh, sod this. This walking thing's a bit crap, isn't it? I might just give up. All right, so you don't do that. But at the age of around 5 or 6, as an ex-primary school teacher, we know that the voice starts in the head. Who's got a voice in their head? It's interesting, isn't it? 'Cause when you ask 8-year-olds about the voice in their head, they all put their hands up as an ex-teacher. When you ask adults, nobody speaks about the voice in their head. We have a mental health epidemic in this country. All right? When are we going to start talking about mental health? About the voice in the head? Because that's what peak performance is. Do you see those guys who play football on a Saturday? The guy that was brilliant. Who saw the Gareth Southgate? I'm a bit of a moron on press conferences, but the football press conference yesterday around the World Cup was around racism, etc. He's doing loads of work mentally with those players that has never been done before, ever. All right, whether that's going to transfer into performance on pitch, we don't know. It's early days, but he's such a forward-thinking man, Gareth Southgate, around this stuff. All right, so we need something different. Because this is where we are. This is the 6th richest country in the world based on GDP. That is average life satisfaction. And as you can see, the most satisfied you'll be in this country is at 16. Then it all goes pear-shaped. Even though you'll earn loads of money and you'll be really successful and you'll be chasing this thing that we all think is happy or successful, right? What's this bit here? Some say kids, marriage, right? But that's your working life. And you'll have people in your organisations who are on that downward spiral. But there are companies and countries that are on an upward trend. Do we think that's important in Britain, or do we think they're all a bit weird, these people who are chasing that? All right? When we start thinking differently, we will all start to thrive and be better. Okay, so I'm not going to talk much about this, because this is me. I was highly successful. I had all my education, money, etc. But I got type 1 diabetes at 23. And instead of accepting the change, I basically just numbed it through alcohol and food. Does anyone know, anyone else good at change like that? Where instead of facing the change, you just numb it and you just forget about it. Luckily, I met a doctor that instead of just telling me it would be okay, which most people do, don't worry, it'll be okay. Do you ever get the tilted head thing when somebody's telling you bad news? He basically gave it to me both barrels. That's come out really stretched on that. It wasn't that big because it looks a bit weird on my screen. It looks okay. He gave it to me both barrels, but then he said to me one thing about legacy. He said, Kev, look, you've obviously got lots of ability because of what you do, but what does the world look like, sound like, feel like when Kev House is his best self on a consistent basis? That doesn't mean every day. Because, has anyone got type 1 diabetes in here? It's rubbish. This morning was rubbish. Trust me. But I'm still here being my best self. Do you ever wake up feeling rubbish, but then spend the whole day rubbish? Because your mind is going, this is rubbish, I'm tired, this is rubbish, he's rubbish, she's rubbish, this is rubbish. All right? I'm guilty of all of these things, okay? But there is a different way, because I don't fall into those traps anymore. So, in a moment, I'd like you to go and find somebody you've never met before, right? Because most people come to these things and they speak to the same people about the same stuff and they don't learn anything. Because they sit with people who agree with them, right? So go and find somebody. In the next 5 minutes, we're going to answer these 4 questions. Because this is about brilliance and this is about performance. So I imagine Gareth Southgate is doing something a bit like this. So when those boys are standing at the tunnel in Moscow, or wherever they play, they're going to know what they are at their best. Have you ever asked you what you are at your best? Do your kids ask themselves what they are at their best before they go in and do their GCSEs? Have they ever thought about what peak performance is? Or is that not for them? It's just for people who get highly paid. All right? There's something different here. So, number 1, what does your 10 out of 10 version of you look like, sound like, feel like? When you're at your best, what is it? Because if you know what it is, you can replicate it. You can do it again and again and again. That's what peak performance is. It isn't doing it once and then you're a bit rubbish for the next week. Okay? You do it consistently. All right? 3 qualities that describe you when you're at your absolute best. So mine are focus, creativity, energy. So this morning, I am chief procrastinator, I'll give you that. But this morning, I looked at my slides, right? And I knew where I was going to go to where I start and where I end. Creativity, I never do the same thing twice. Try not to do the same thing twice. And then energy is about music. You don't learn if you haven't got any energy. So if you've got staff who are knackered all the while, you're in trouble, to me. And if you're knackered all the while, I'd urge you to think about how you get your energy levels up, right? So mine is, I can't run at the moment because I've got a dodgy back, so I listen to music. So we were talking about, LCD sound system, whatever is your favourite thing for us. Dave and I went to see the Stones on Tuesday. Oh my God, I've just had the Stones on and on and on. So on the way here, I had that banging out. What is yours? How do you get your energy level up for a big meeting? When you're talking to the troops, are you an inspirational leader or are you a bit low? All right? How do you get to that point where you are really good? Because people do what the leader does. People do what people in front of them are. If you're not leading by example, there's a good chance they'll just be like you. All right? And then what's stopping you from being your best self? How often are you your absolute best? I work with a large water company, and one of the guys in the leadership team said, to be fair, when I was at my last company, Kev, it was once a month. All right, and now he says, after joining this water company, it's once a week. That's performance culture. I'm not asking you to be your best selves every single day, but I'm asking you to have some self-awareness when you're not, and how you're going to get back up there. So it is about being human. All right? And if you are the leaders, you're not supposed to be perfect. I've never said about being perfect. I'm just saying about being the best version of you, not somebody else. Not somebody else. They're not important, the others. You are the most important. And I will ask you this, what's stopping you from being your best self? That's basically it, isn't it? But when I was drinking 10 pints of lager and eating a pizza most nights, and somebody would have said that to me, I would have told them that's a complete load of rubbish. Because I used to moan about everybody else apart from me. Do you know people like that? Used to be the doctors, used to be my head teacher that I was working for, my colleagues, the kids, my girlfriend, my family. Everybody else's fault why my life is crap apart from mine. All right? So personal responsibility is big in our world. Because I'm a tech idiot, I've got some mess ups on my slides. Right, okay, so this is, I work with a guy called Andy Cope, and wait for it, he's got the first PhD in this country in happiness. Oh my God, he's a Dr. Happy. I know, that takes some time to get your head around, doesn't it? But the last stats that I saw were in this country, the 6th richest country, there were 70 million prescriptions written last year for unhappiness in this country. There's one doctor. GPs don't know about the psychology of happiness. They're not going to give you anything like that. What are they going to give you? They're going to give you pills. They're going to give you pills. This is not the easy route. This is a slightly harder route. But once you start mastering it, then the benefits are huge. As you see with me, I don't cost the NHS anything apart from insulin now. I don't go to A&E like I used to. I don't go to the doctors all the while. I don't miss work anymore. All right? They're big changes, but I'm not on any pills. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be on pills if they really need them, but there's lots of people who don't need them. There's loads of them that don't need them, okay? So this is what he found. He went to Loughborough University to study this idea of positive psychology, and he found, and think about in your own day, you'll feel really good parts of the day and a bit rubbish at parts of the day, but lots of us, me included, we sort of survive in our survivor mode in here. Anyone do that? You just sort of get through the days, the weeks, the months, the years. That's how it is. That there are a small band at the top that he calls 2%ers that are their best selves on a consistent basis. Now, I'm not here to tell you what the 2%ers are because it's all individual to everybody else. But for me, it's about energy, focus, creativity. I have great relationships. I listen. I let things go. I don't have any fake stress. I'll talk about fake stress in a bit. So up there, that is where we want. Imagine the world if that 2% block, because he called it 2% because there were only 2% of the population he surveyed that were doing it. So he thought, I need to study these to find out what they're doing. Then there are people doing it some of the time, you're survivors, and then you've got the people at the bottom. Does anybody know any of these? Mood hoovers. Anyone know any miserable buggers that just moan about everything? The weather, the traffic, the government, the food, the boss, everything. It's never to their liking. And what they don't keep it to themselves on the whole, they tell everybody about how rubbish it is, don't they? I have a miserable, I always talk about my dad. Who's got a miserable dad? Right, okay, nice one. Somebody admits it, because usually nobody says anything, you think, oh, I'm a bad person. He's an amazing man, my dad, but when he's down here, it's hard work. It's really hard work, and he infects everybody. He brings my mum's mood down. All right? Anyone know a mood hoover? Anybody live with one? Anyone who's got relatives who are one? Right. Anyone work with one? Right. Okay. Anyone who's got clients who are one? Right. Okay. You don't have to say anything. Right? You don't have to say anything. All right. So imagine the world if we made this smaller and that bigger up the top. Imagine the world. We're not talking. This is not a hard thing to do necessarily, but it's a conscious shift in thinking. How many weeks do you get? 4,000 weeks. And at the end of your time, Ray Wilkins, the footballer, died it must be a month now, maybe more. And when he died, Joe Cole said about him, not about his football achievements, which were huge. He said, do you know what? Every time, the thing I remember most about Ray is that when I left his company, he left me with a spring in my step and a smile on my face. Do you do that with people? Do you do that with people? When you're in a restaurant, when you're in Tesco's, when you're just walking, or in work? Or have you got people who do that for you too? Because what does the world look like when we have that instead of putting your head down and walk past? Get your phone out. I don't want to speak to them. Get your phone out. Get your phone out. Get your phone out. Do you have that? Whoa, I live in apartment blocks in Manchester with a lift. Oh my God, I've never seen people so terrified when they have to get in the lift with you, especially the happy bloke, right? Whoa. All right, so what we're trying to aim is more 2%ers and less mood hoovers. I'm just going to move that. We want less of that, right? Because you must see these people around in the sixth richest country in the world. Because people will tell you that money makes you happy, and you haven't got enough, and you haven't got a big enough telly and a big enough car, and you're not doing enough at work, so you need to do more and more and more. All right? To me, there's a system that's sort of behind that, but that's another story, right? So these things, I'll send you these slides, and you can have a look at them, but I was definitely in the middle here, in the 98% of the population who just wanted to fit in. Human beings are, in evolutionary terms, hardwired to be like everybody else. It's for survival of the species. Okay? And so we have an epidemic of people in the world who just want to fit in. So they're pretty insecure, fearful, etc. I was one of those. I was highly fearful, highly negative. I just got by. And then once I had a shift in mindset, because as I said to you, I still have bad days, but I've just changed. I just think differently. That's all. They haven't given me a magic potion or insulin or give me a magic job. All right? I've just had to change my mindset. So within that, it's about challenging yourself. It's about doing stuff out of your comfort zone. It's about teaching yourself how to be confident. Do you think, before I come and speak at these things, bloody hell, my cortisol and adrenaline levels are through the roof. But in the past, has anyone been to exams when they're like that and they just can't handle it? Have you got kids like that? Have you got staff like that? You just says, well, that's just how I am. I'm just not very good under pressure. Well, have you done anything about it? And has anyone taught you how to manage that? Because then once you start doing that, then you're better at it. I failed everything at school, by the way. It's a little chip on my shoulder. But I don't fail anything anymore. I haven't failed any other exams because I learned how to change. I learned how to manage that. All right? That's sort of good peak performance, right? So all of those things, I urge you to start thinking about 2% of mindset. Because there is a thing called the 5-star good morning. 1 star, people go into the office and somebody's got in really early to do their work, Brian. They don't want to be disturbed. You come in, you go, morning, and they go, ugh. They don't even look up, they just grunt at you. 2-star is morning. 3-star is morning. 4-star is morning, and then you engage in eye contact, and you know something about your colleague. You know what their kids' names are, you know what they're interested in, you know what they're interested in, you know that, so I don't know your name, sir, with LCD sound system. So I know that Tony likes some music, so we talk about music, etc., etc. That's 4 stars. 5 stars, bear with me on this, we are in the north, right? And this comes from Scandinavia. 5 stars is you go in, you do all the things that 4 stars do, and then when you leave them, you wish them well for their day by either patting them on the shoulder, shaking their hand, or giving them a hug. Whoa. Everyone's going, oh, geez, there's certain people in the office you don't want to give a hug to, right? So, but the psychology of hugging is go home and try this. I know there's somebody who's spent, I don't know, lots of hours researching this. The psychology of hugging, the average hug in the UK, I think, is 2 seconds, right? To pass the love from one human being to another, because it's only a hug, right, is 7 seconds. Go home and give your other half or your kids a 7-second hug. Try not to go 1, no, you can't leave yet, 2, hold on, 3. Try it. So, these are the 4 things that can bring you into mood hoover zone. There are others, but these are 4 of them, right? Have you fallen into, which lots of us do, monotony? So you do the same thing all the while. You get up at the same time, you eat the same breakfast, you drink the same coffee from your mug because it's your mug. Then you drive the same way to work, you speak to the same people about the same stuff. You eat the same breakfast, and then you come home, and then you speak to the same people, watch the same telly, and repeat. All right, all guilty of that, So I urge you, monotony is a killer. Get outside, do different stuff, get your routine done, speak to new people that you don't know, get out of your comfort zone. Very important. Mine was, I used to listen to a radio station that was a bit, to me, a bit dull now, and because it used to turn me into my dad saying there's no good music anymore. And then I found BBC Six. Come on, who listens to Six? Nice one, a few of us, BBC Six. Then there's there's so much more new music out there that lights me up. It might not be your thing, but there's stuff out there. Go and find the stuff that lights you up. Because if not, what's the point? What is the point? Go and find it. So that's why you have to make the effort to go and see LCD Sound System. You have to make the effort to go and see the Stones. All right? But they are like experiences. It's not about things that will light you up. It's about people and experiences. That's where you're going to get it. All right? Okay, so number 2, if you're knackered all the while, I urge you to either slow down or eat better, sleep better, exercise more. Okay, it's not rocket science. I haven't got a pill for it, but it is about looking after yourself. Complexity, if you've got busyness disease, anyone got busyness disease where they're really busy at work and then they go home and they're really busy at home? All right, and so they've got no time for themselves. It's all about everybody else. I urge you to go and drop a few of those things. They say that when you're really busy, when you've got busyness disease, you're pushing down the stuff that you really need to think about. It's another thing. It's the same as alcohol, food, drugs, prescription medication, and money and debt. It's a number, busyness. And people say, I can't go to the gym because I'm too busy. I can't speak to my wife or husband about our relationship because I'm too busy. All right? Maybe slow down and maybe address those things before it's too late. Please. And the last one is news. My dad watches 4 cycles of news. I love my dad to bits, but he watches breakfast, lunchtime, tea time, and bedtime news. Can you imagine watching it at the moment? Whoa, that's tough work, isn't it? Guy Browning says if you got one, you get the gut feeling. Is this it? If you got all 4, you have IBS, which isn't what you might think it is. It's irritable bastard syndrome. So try and change that. Hopefully you haven't got that in your company. I know some of you are tech guys and you do it, and these things are really good to a certain extent, but we are, as Dave was saying, you are people companies number 1. Number 1. People do stuff for people who they like. They don't do stuff with people who, when they're having a conversation with them, has the phone on the table. If you're having dinner with your kids and your phone is on the table and their phone is on the table, that is suicide. Get rid of it. Turn it off. Turn it off. You don't need it, all right? You don't need it. I'm not saying they're bad, because obviously our lives are around phones, but I am saying we need a bit of time away from them. And if you're constantly posting on social media, can you see that? Just do something different, will you? We don't need to know what you are doing every single minute of every single day. All right? You can go around for dinner when you get home and tell them. This is Mr. and Mrs. House. My mum and dad, right? My mum and dad, and you know that mum's the dominant in the relationship, don't you? Because she likes stripes. And she dresses my dad. Anyway, you know when you go, because I live away now, and I go home and I say to it was Dad's birthday. This is his 77th birthday last year, and I go, all right, Dad, we're going out for dinner. It's your special occasion. It's your birthday, once a year, right? So I take him out, and he has a brilliant time when he's out. And then I go, we had a great time. And then I start thinking, well, how many more special occasions is Paul House going to get at 77? That sounds really miserable, but I don't want to wait and go, oh, right? So now, every time I go home, I really make, and it is hard at times because he's stuck in his ways, but he is still my dad, and so I force him to get out more. There's more special occasions. When was the last time you did that for your parents or your mates? When was the last time you saw your best mate? We've just been talking about one of the reasons I left Norfolk to come up to Manchester is that we just didn't see each other. It's doing my head in. So I thought I need to go and do something else. Make the effort with your people. And we would say it's a bit like pants, right? So every day is a special pants day. Now let me explain before you switch off, right? Have you got stuff that you really love but you only wear it on special occasions? Have you got people you really love but you only take them for dinner once a year, right? So it's a bit like your special pants. Imagine when you put your pants on this morning and you got your everyday pants, right? If they're white, which mine are, they're a bit grey, they've got jean dye on, and they might have a few holes in, but you just whack them on because it's just a normal day, isn't it? You don't need to be brilliant today, do you? So you just get on with it. And then as you go further in your underwear drawer, you find something a bit better quality. All right, it could be a bit silky, it could be a bit frilly, I don't know, whatever it may be. But when you put it on, you feel bloody amazing, don't you? So when you put it on for Valentine's, date night, interviews, whatever it may be, you have that little spring in your step, don't you? Do you not have that here? Imagine that in your company when everyone's got their best pants on. It's as simple as that. Have you got a piece of jewellery? Is it a watch that your mum gave you or your granny gave you, but you never wear it? There'll be a time where you'll get there and you'll think, I wish I'd have worn it more. Because if today isn't a special occasion, when is your special occasion? Get on with it. Get on with it. Right, okay. So just to close, these are two things that Andy, they're game-changing. They're game-changing for me because, as I said, I still have a load of rubbish to deal with on a daily basis with my health, okay? So, the number one thing in all the positive psychology research, all right, in all the positive psychology research, is that it's a choice to be your best self. Yes, you are going to have a load of rubbish every day. You're going to need resilience and grit, but that to me is part of your best self. And I'm not saying you have to laugh and have a good time when it's hitting the fan. You're okay to be a bit miserable, but if you're miserable for days, weeks, months, years, that's not good. All right? So please don't go away from here and say, oh God, I'm not allowed to be unhappy anymore. That's way from the truth. That's way from what I'm telling you. But I am saying, have you got strategies to get you out of that? And do you get sabotaged by fake stress? Because a lot of people get sabotaged by fake stress, right? So, when I mean fake stress, I mean imagine you're desperate for the loo. You're desperate for the loo, but you go into the loo, and then you're there, and then somebody hasn't changed the loo roll. So there's just a paper roll on there. But then you look, and then it's on the floor. Who gets angry about that? Come on, that somebody hasn't bothered to actually put the loo roll on there. Who gets fake stress with people pulling out of them in the car? Who gets fake stress when they're waiting to come off the junction and you're queuing nicely like everyone should, but then somebody doesn't bother to queue and they push in? Does nobody get annoyed by that? Right, okay, so think about what your fake stress is. That is key, all right? Because there's loads of it. Obviously, there's bigger stress, but these are the stuff that can really... Who's got a special mug at work, but somebody uses it? And they don't wash it up as you want them to wash it up, or they don't put it in the right place. Come on, that can destroy relationships in the office. So, Viktor Frankl is... I put it on the reading list. He survived Auschwitz, right? And here's a man who knows, and he went on to live an amazing life. Has anyone read Man's Search for Meaning? I urge you, go... Nice place. It's good, isn't it? It's good. It's hard. It's a hard read, but it's a good read. Okay? So, I'd urge you, and it's not a very long book, but what he says is that you can't blame anyone or anything for your behavior. It's a choice. It's a choice. And if he can say that after being in Auschwitz, I don't know what we're all doing when you turn the news on. Okay? So he says it's about event plus response equals outcome. There is no such thing as a positive or negative event in the world. They're all neutral. They're all neutral, but it's your response that you put onto the event that will make the outcome positive or negative. Does that make sense? Not easy at times, but possible, right? So the key thing for me, and what he says, and I've got this, out of all the research I've read, this is one of the biggest things, right? The simplest things, is that he says between event and response is where you get your power, your growth, and your freedom. But too many human beings are like dogs, they see and do. Somebody does that, you go bonkers. Somebody does that, you get upset. Somebody does that, and I'm guilty of that at times too, all right? So the idea is that just count to 10 and realize which response are you going to choose to get the right outcome. All right? It's not rocket science, is it? It's hard, and you have to practice that. And will you get sabotaged sometimes, and will you just go event and response? Of course you will. Of course you will, but the more you practice it, the easier it is you get. All right, the easier it is you get. So one reason I have really good diabetes control is that I have a gap between event and response. I'm less emotional now. Then there's a guy called Steve Peters who talks about the chimps. Anyone read Chimp Paradox? I urge you, that to me, in all the stuff I've read, and I have a psychology degree too, that is a game changer. That's a game changer. All right, I urge you, I went on a course with him a couple of weeks ago. That is just such a fab thing. So I do a lot of work around that too. So that's that. And then the other thing, when you are your best self, you pass on an amazing impact to others. So when you're brilliant, you will help other people to be brilliant. You can't expect anybody else to be brilliant when you are bog standard average. That's just not going to happen. When you go home and your kids are miserable, but you are just a bit miserable too, and you have been for weeks, but you want your kids to be happy and motivated and gritty and go and get all the exams and travel the world, and then they look at you and they think, well, what have you done recently? Nothing. All right? I'm really serious because I've fallen into all of these traps. So the one thing I want to leave you with before I close up is the 4-minute rule. This, out of all of the things that has come with the Art of Brilliance, is the 4-minute rules. And it says when you are your best self for 4 minutes, your good mood passes on. Your good mood, you stop moaning about what you were moaning about, and your good mood transfers onto the people that you are with. Will there be times when you don't feel like your best self and you have to go motivate somebody or have a good meeting or whatever? Of course there will. Will there be times when you go home to your family and you're really miserable? Of course there will. You try the 4-minute rule. And this really, the said water company, just going back to them, I had a man stand up in tears the other day, a little while ago, and he said, do you know what, Kev, it's as simple as this, the 4-minute rule. I was coming home from work, miserable and moaning. I'd come in the door. My wife and I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, that's what he was saying. I used to just come in, I didn't really say hello to them. I was on my phone doing work, and I'd just go and do work. And you can imagine, guess what his marriage was like at that point? That was on rock bottom, right? So he just said to him, really simply, 4-minute rule. So he has it on his visor in his car, and he remembers, he moans all the way home, and he gets all his stuff out, but then as he walks through the door, he turns his phone off and he puts it in a basket. And then he goes in and he says, what does best dad, what does best husband look like, sound like, feel like for the next 4 minutes? And then once you've stopped, once you do it for 4 minutes, you stop moaning about what you were moaning about, and you have an amazing time. Try it. When you go home, or try not to be in what you've always done. If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you always get. Slightly annoying quote, but that's true, isn't it? That's true. Okay, these are my top tips. And then, because I'm going to send this to you anyway, and if you want to get in contact, just phone me up or email me or whatever. At the end of every day, hopefully you ask what sort of day you've had, good or not so good. But that's pretty passive, so I would ask you, get you to start thinking, did I do my best to? Did I do my best to smile? Smiling's amazing, isn't it? When you look at somebody and you smile, they tend to smile back because of mirror neurons. Did I do my best to challenge? Did I do my best to be resilient? Did I do my best to, open the door for somebody and look them in the eye and have a conversation? All right? It's not rocket science. I met a doctor a while back now who said, exercise, Kev, is the silver bullet. If you want to save the NHS, one of the ways you need to do it is to get people active. Type 2 diabetes, diet and exercise is 1/10 of the NHS budget. 1/10, okay? So I'm just doing it on part of, because I do a lot of work in the NHS, we can all be. And for me, as you saw, I was out of control, and now I have some sort of control, and I use exercise, and all of these, life is good, and I have lots of energy. But I have to plan exercise into my day. Meditation, does anyone meditate in here? Nice one. Oh yeah, of course you do, ladies. I always thought it was wishy-washy middle-class rubbish because I'm a man's man, right? And so I found Headspace, which has been voted the best health well-being app in the world, I think, on wherever it goes, right? So I'd urge you just to look at that. It teaches you how to meditate. Is there anyone who can't sleep here or wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then can't get back to sleep? That is brilliant. Brilliant. It's free. It's free for the first, it's 10 days free, 10 minutes a day, and then you can either subscribe. So random acts of kindness. When was the last time you did something lovely for somebody? Open a door, say hello, buy them coffee. Because I said that to a mate of mine in Manchester, and she bought a guy a coffee who was behind him, and you should see the shock on his face. That somebody, he was thinking that he had to give something back. No, she just said, I just bought you a coffee. Have a good day. Try it. Try it. Try not to be in the supermarket line, though, with a guy with a basket. Yeah, you might get caught out. My favourite is a gratitude journal. You have to rewire the brain to be positive, okay? You have to rewire it because the brain is highly negative. We have a negativity bias, okay? So one way of doing that is a gratitude journal. At the end of every day, write down 3 things that you are truly grateful for and why. 3 things truly grateful for. Is it a smile? Is it a taste? Is it a person? Is it technology? Is it your car? Is it the sunshine? Bloody hell. Is it the same here in Lancaster? Do you get sunshine all the while up in the northwest? Because since I moved here, they said 3 days every year you'll get sunny. It's been sunny for the last 3 weeks. I'll touch the wood. I don't want to jinx it. And then the last one is just you are, like that little kid at the start, amazing. I know it sounds a bit, but you are, because we're all human beings. All right? When you aren't doing what you think you should be, just talk to yourself pretty kindly. All right? So I do that on a daily. I've been giving myself a hard time, but then you just have to step back and say, come, just knock it off a bit. Knock it off a bit and then start again, okay? This isn't about being perfect. It's about being your best self. Okay, so I'll send you the slides. Give it some thought and see if it can make an impact in your business. And just to finish, I'll finish with those 3 things. Not about working harder, it's about being better human beings. Hopefully there's nobody in this room that can't be a better human being. So I urge you, what personal development have you done in the last year to help you be better? And if you haven't, that doesn't make you a bad person, but go and do some, will you? Go and do something different. Number 2, happy people more successful, happy companies make more money, happy schools get better grades, blah, blah, blah. And the last one is about legacy. I'm really passionate about this. 4,000 weeks. The All Blacks, one of the best books I've read is a book called Legacy by James Kerr about the All Blacks. And they say, when they go into the All Blacks setup, they say, you're only in this jersey a short amount of time. How are you going to leave the jersey in a better place than when you once had it? So I say that to you guys. In your companies, in your social circles, etc., how are you going to leave this world a better place than when you were once in it? Lovely. Thank you very much. Enjoy lunch.